Hey guys, welcome back to Computational Biology with Python. I've done so many of these classes I almost forgot which one I'm teaching. I'm up to 160 some videos. Some of them are developmental biology and stuff that I lectured on for other classes, but it's got to be 100 plus coding videos, so it blends together, right? Alright, so in this video, we're going to talk about debugging, and this one's going to be a little bit different than some of our previous videos because we're actually going to just talk about kind of best practices, not so much actually doing the debugging itself, but talking about how to set yourself up to succeed in debugging your own code. No coding, let's just talk. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, so this is provided by Software Carpentry again. Where'd my picture go? I disappeared. Okay, I'm back here. Hey! Yeah, there I am. I was looking over here because my title's wrong again. We're off to a wonderful rip-roaring start here. Alright, so debugging. Okay, so debugging, how can I debug my program is what kind of the objectives are of this, right? So your program's not working, what are some of the steps? Well, some of the steps occur before you write the program, or as you're writing the program. So the first step they have here is know what it's supposed to do. So it's hard if you don't know what a program's supposed to do intricately, then it's hard to debug and know how it is failing. So if you've watched a lot of my videos, I've mentioned this a couple times, but a great example of this, in my opinion, is me as a physics student. So I took physics as an undergrad, and the first class I took, Physics 1, is kinematics, right? So it's like, motion, and I remember like some of the questions that are on my exams were like, okay, you're standing on on a cliff this tall, and you throw a baseball off of the cliff, which then makes it a baseball cliff. Now, you throw a baseball off this cliff, you throw it with this much force, you know the constant for gravity, you know how much wind resistance there is, and therefore, how far does it go, like out from the cliff? So that is as a student, I knew intimately what was supposed to be an acceptable answer, what it's supposed to do. For example, if I did my math throwing this baseball and it goes 10,000 miles, I know something's completely messed up, right? Because there's no way I could throw a baseball 10,000 miles. So I know in general what the answer's supposed to be, what it's supposed to do. I have an idea of how the physics works of throwing a baseball. Now, I went into Physics 2. In Physics 2, this was after I was like, man, maybe I should double major in physics, right? In Physics 2, we got into like resistors and capacitors and electric currents and ohms and watts and volts and all these different things with electricity. And there was no logical fact checking in my mind. So I could do all the math and then it would say 10,000 volts. And I'd be like, okay, because I don't have experience with 10,000 volts. I don't know what it's supposed to be. Like 10,000 volts would be outrageous, right? So like your electrical socket's 120 volts. 10,000 volts is like Jurassic Park. When the kid gets zapped, I think that's 10,000 volts. So it's like deadly amount of volts, right? But I know a little bit more now because I have life experience. But at the time, I don't know what this means. And so I didn't know what it was supposed to do. I didn't know, have a good idea of a way of fact checking the logic of what's going on. And so that's kind of akin to this, right? So if you have an idea of what your program's supposed to do, or like kind of a general framework of what's supposed to happen, that can really help you. If you are out over your skis and you're like writing an astrophysics program and you know nothing of astrophysics, you're going to have a terrible time debugging. So that's kind of the thing. Know what it's supposed to do. So make it fail every time. So we can only debug something when it fails. So the second step is to always find a test that can make it fail every time. So the every time part is important because few things are more frustrating than debugging an intermittent problem. This is true. And so I've had issues with other people who have turned out to be fantastically helpful, but I'd use some of their programming package and it would work. I'm like, great. And then I would come back the next day and it wouldn't work. And so it didn't fail every time. It's intermittent failing, which is really a problem. So you hopefully can make it so it fails every time. Another thing is you want to hopefully, if you are doing debugging, that it's something that fails fast. So if it takes 20 minutes for the bug to surface, we can only mess with it 3 times an hour, right? So this is kind of what we were talking about in the defensive programming, right? Where we are, if we put those assertions in there, this can save us a lot of times, because if it takes 20 minutes for the bugs to surface, assertions can save us going into those long times. The other thing is, when you're trying to fix something, don't fix only one thing at a time, then run your code. So fix something, run it. Fix something, run it. And if it keeps getting the errors, so if you, or I should say, change one thing at a time and then run it. If you change it and you run it and it still throws that error, change it, the thing you changed back, change something else, run it, see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, go and change something back. You don't want to be potentially introducing more errors by changing something or changing 5 things, running it, and now you have a new error which just buried the other one because the code failed before it even got to the error you're trying to fix in the first place. So change one thing at a time. If it doesn't fix it, change it back, and keep doing that. Also, keep track of what you've done. You can have a little notepad. You can annotate your code. This is especially if you're getting a program that's very intuitive, a lot of lines of text. It's important to keep track because you might try the same thing over and over again. This is be humble. So this is one. It's kind of hard. If it's your own stuff, it's kind of hard. I was recently, when I was talking earlier about the reproducing, having the error fail consistently. I had some students that were working with this program, and I've taught them how to code, and so they come to me and they're like, hey, I can't get this to work. Why can't you fix it? And I'm trying to fix their code, which I've been relatively successful in the past doing. And I just can't do it. So I swallowed my pride and I went on to GitHub and I wrote to the guy that wrote the code. And I was like, hey, I have some students that are using this. I like this code a lot, this package. I can't figure out why it's not working, and they can't get it to work. Turns out it was something on his end. And he was nice enough and super fast and fix it right away. Awesome guy. And I won't mention him by name, but wrote a sweet RNA-seq associated package, I guess, without getting too in the weeds. But anyways, so he was super helpful. But I had to swallow my pride and be like, I can't figure this out. Like after a couple days of trying. So it's the same thing, get help, ask for help. There's the one thing with coding. No, it's not the one thing, but a big thing with coding. For the most part, I used to say you will never have an error that somebody else hasn't had, right? And so there's thousands of message boards and threads and things like that all have people asking, the exact same or very similar question that you have, or have the same error, or very similar error. I used to say 100% of the time, but that last example where my students and I couldn't figure out that thing and we had to go to the guy that wrote the package, we were the first to find that error because he changed the version after that. So once in a while you'll get that, but 99.99, that was the first time. I've been coding for, what is it? Oh god, it's probably been 2012 years, maybe, conservatively. That's the first time I've ever been the first to find something not working. Usually message boards solve my problems for me. Yeah, so that is it. I'm not going to get too much. These are just, you can go ahead and read these. These are on Software Carpentry, or you can look on the self-guided stuff if you really want to get deep into it, if you're on the Praxis site. But yeah, it's just really, the big thing is, the big takeaways are, know what you're coding, because if you don't know what you're coding, it's going to be hard to figure out why it's not working. Change one thing at a time, and if it doesn't work, change it back and then try something else, because you don't want to be introducing more errors and building errors on top of each other. And then lastly, ask for help. Like, honestly, I try in my courses, so you guys may have experienced if you took my art course, but or my data products course, there's a community that likes to help each other. There are some communities, I will warn you, some communities are snobbier than others. There are people on Stack Overflow, I'll name drop them, no problem, that like if you don't search ahead of time to see if someone else asked the same question, they'll get snotty and tell you this was asked before in a kind of a mean tone. Reddit, I feel, while not as robust of a community, it's not as big of a community as like Stack Overflow, seems a little nicer in my opinion. They're not as I don't know, computer nerdy aggressive. A lot of people are nice, but once in a while you get the kind of aggressive people. But also, to be fair, also look for the answer first on Google or on Stack Overflow. Like if somebody else, like I said, most people have had these problems before. So just Google it a couple times, see if you can find the answer. If not, then ask on there, because you will get yelled at otherwise. I'm not a yell at person. I don't answer people's questions. I have enough time with all my students and the people in my YouTube comments. I'm not on Stack Overflow answering questions. Okay, enough rambling. 13 minutes. This was just going to be a 5-minute video, and now it's a 13-minute video. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a little bit of something. This is just kind of little tips. But hit like, hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Debug that code. Follow these tips. You'll be successful. Check you in the next video.